Split your lungs with blood and thunder when you see the white whale. Break your backs and crack your oarsmen if you wish to prevail. This ivory leg is what propels me. Harpoons thrust in the sky. Aim directly for his crooked brow and look him straight in the eye. Friends and grasshoppers, greetings and salutations. This is the Formless Podcast, episode number 81. I'm Dustin, and my guest is a dear friend, teacher, mentor to many, Sensei Blain Cort.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
No, thank you. This is something, Blain has been a guest on one of our earlier episodes, I think like number 5 or something like that. And that was something we always talked about, is getting you back on. And now's a perfect opportunity. Tyler's out and away from town, so I get you to all to myself today. So
glad to be here.
Yeah. That little quote that I read is a song. If you know the song, the album, and the artist, send me an email at the Formless Pod and I'll send you some goodies. So today I just thought, I've been thinking a lot about this lately, and I thought we would talk about business and how it relates to martial arts.
Okay.
Specifically, when you are learning something that is completely new to you, because like business things come up and You're like, oh, where did that come from? You know? And there's been challenges, like
for sure. For sure. And over the years, different challenges, different times. We've had schools for a long time. We lost our original school in the real estate bubble in 05, 06.
Yes.
It was a horrible time. Remember, within about a week, I had a large portion, probably 1 out of every 5 or 6 families were coming into me, and a family lost a job, hours cut back. Now only one parent's working. It was a very tumultuous time.
Yeah.
And definitely most people, for them, they look at martial arts as a luxury type expense. And so when you hit the brass tacks, it's one of the things early on that gets goes on the chopping block.
Yes, and for me, it's beyond that. Like, it is fun. Don't get me wrong, I love it, but it is the thing that I feel has given me a great amount of joy and personal gain. And so,
absolutely.
I mean, I've even lost my job a couple of times since training, and with different economies. Activities, COVID and whatnot, and it's always like, what else can I cut? But that's a whole nother story.
Most people, after they've trained for a while, most people start martial arts. The average person, if it's a child, it's a parent that's looking for a fun activity for their kid to do, or to address some type of thing that they need behaviorally. Maybe they're having trouble with confidence or focus or things like that. But what happens is the people that stay, whether it's a kid that stays or an adult student that stays, is given a little bit of time, they start realizing that there's a lot more to what they're getting out of martial arts than what they were originally after. And that's a pretty consistent thing. And then you really see it, parents are welcome to bring their kids in and drop off and go. A lot of times parents can use some of that time. But it really is important to spend some time seeing what your kids are learning. Sit there and you see that, and then that's where you end up seeing the difference with some of the parents, because they really see the difference in what their kids are learning, the values besides how to punch and how to kick and those type of things. And we always say that why is more important than how. Why do we do something is much more dramatic of a shift. And so we definitely have a large group of students who have went through that year cycle, and they're there longer, and they're completely dedicated to the training and been with us for a long time. And that's always an amazing thing to see. And I don't think that it has a lot to do with punching and kicking. I think it has to do with the culture of the school, the friendships and relationships, not only that the youth students have with each other, but many of our parents have other parents that they're friends with, and they develop the relationship. And not always a lot of places in our modern society where you have a commonality of values and goals for your children. And it's nice to have that community where people can come together and have that experience.
And it's really surprising to me, like the goals and commitments and things that we teach. It's really surprising to me that more people haven't caught on to that as far as like society. You know, there's so many, like you talk to any kind of school guidance counselor or any type of therapist, and they're like, you should ingrain yourself with an organization or some group or something, because it builds, it's a character builder, it builds friendships, it builds relationships, it teaches you how to handle those things. And yeah, it's phenomenal. Your first school that you opened, how old were you?
So if we go back to the beginning, I originally trained at the Anderson City Hall, which is a Parks and Recreation program. And then as I went through as a student, my instructor he taught the Parks and Rec program, but he had his own independent school in Reading at the same time. So I would train in Anderson for all of those classes, and I would go to Reading. Then when I joined the Marine Corps, I went off, because I was a reservist, went off, did my initial training. It took about a year by the time it was all said and done for me to get back and fully settled in civilian life. And so I would have been 19 when I came back, and I took over the Anderson City Hall program. That was my first school. You know, because the school is not just a building that you pay rent for. It can be any number of things, is where you have students, because school is an instructor and students. The type of building is neither here nor there. That's on the business side of things. We'll talk about that in a minute. But so I took that over when I came back. The first day that I walked in, there was me and 3 students, one of which didn't show up to the following class. And then we built up from there. And so I was 19. We built that program up. I think we had 35, 40 students, which is quite a few for a City Hall type program. You understand, there's 2 classes a week, and everybody was there.
Regardless of rank or age.
Yes, they were. Everybody was together.
And that's where I first started training with Sensei Blue. And it was like, some days you might be 10 kids, and then the next week it was like 45 people, and from 8 years old on up to 80, you know? Yeah, very different training experience. So we had that, and then we bounced over and we taught. I used to work for a group home and a school system that was connected to them, and they had a gym, and so we needed to relocate. So we taught out of the gym for a while, maybe a year, a little over a year. And then one of our students' families, they were in business, and they had a building in like an industrial complex. Okay. So then we moved over to there, and we taught there for quite a while, and that's where we were when the economy went. So that was about 2005, 2006 when it went south, when that happened. And then we were closed. It always seems like it was much longer, but when I go back and I actually look at the dates, because I've got some pictures of my daughter, who's 18 now, when she first started is when I reopened after having lost it. And so I've got some kind of time stamps essentially that I can use, go to good old Facebook and you can look back and go,
okay, this is where it was. And at that time, a friend of mine ran a miniature hobby store, and he just happened to overhear me discussing something. He goes, hey, you can teach in the back. So we started in this building that's about the size of my office. And so we had to put the mats down on Mondays, and then we teach on Wednesday. We had to pull them back up because they'd have gamers in there over the weekend. And we were there, and they kind of hopped. And a couple of generations after that, we had our first commercial buildings. I had an industrial building that I rented before. But then we finally had our first commercial building
with heating and air conditioning.
Heating and air conditioning, not just swamp and Reading when it's 115. And that was pretty nice. I want to say that was West Center Street. I think that's when you started back with me. Is we were on West Center, and then now we're 3 buildings and many more thousand square feet above then. That entire building was probably would fit on my back classroom on the matted area of the back classroom here.
Oh yeah, easily. That room got tight sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah. That's where we started back up, is off West Center Street, and that's kind of a funny story because I came home from work. If I back up, so we lived in Reading, and we would come to Anderson all the time because my parents live in Anderson, and it's only like a 10-mile drive. It's not a big deal, but we'd go shopping down here, run errands, visit, go home, and we'd drive by your school, and always talking about what we wanted the older two boys to do, and sports, different topics come up, and I said, well, I'd love to get the kids in martial arts, and if we're going to do that, that's the place I want to do that at. So I come home from work one day. This was like weeks and weeks previous. Come home from work one day out of the blue, and she's like, well, don't sit down because we got to go. We got a class in like 20 minutes. I'm like, class? What'd you do? Signed up for Boys for Martial Arts, and we got to go now. So, and then that just started the whole ball rolling. And that was the master plan all along. I didn't know it was going to involve my wife. Mm-hmm. You talk to my wife, and she says, well, my thought was we'd do it for 6 months max, and then out.
Yep.
So,
well, and that's that common mindset of, hey, this is something fun we want the kids to do for a little while and try.
For a temporary fix.
You get into it, you get involved, and you start realizing how much more there's, you talk about Brighton training. I think she's one of the ones that we got signed up we had a Christmas special, and we're running the discount. Hey, if you're a parent and you want to try this, you can buy this. And I remember you were standing behind her, and so she luckily couldn't see your face, and your jaw was on the floor as I'm talking to Brighton, and she's like, yeah, I want to sign up, I want to try it. And you, your eyes almost fell out of your head. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But, look now, Brighton's a brown belt. She helps teach weapons classes and is very accomplished in her own right. One of your kids has a black belt, one's a red belt. So, the whole family's doing great.
And Tom's chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
He didn't come today. He overdosed on candy last night.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty easy to do this time of year.
Yeah. So let's talk about COVID.
Okay.
Because that was
yeah. Oh man. Yeah, there's
things were rolling.
Yes, yeah. Things were. So before COVID, man, we were doing really good. Surgeon, we went up well over 150 members.
Yeah.
And it's not always about and this is business. You'd asked about business and training and all kinds of things. It's not just about the absolute number, but it's about momentum. And so not only did we have the numbers, but it was a byproduct of this momentum that the school had going. And that had to do with the school, it had to do with the economy, it had all these different aspects. But things were going really well. And then all of a sudden, COVID came. And never experienced anything like this before. All of the other downturns that we've experienced have all been kind of the writings on the wall. Like the one we're in now, it's this gradual or semi-gradual where it's going down. COVID, it was almost overnight. I remember my wife and I, we like going wine tasting. We brought you guys with us for the first year. And so we had a big trip planned to Sonoma, and the formal tour got canceled, and I said, oh, well, we'll go anyways. I've got some memberships down there. We'll go to a few different places. And I'll never forget the first day. Everybody was pretty laid back. That was Friday. Saturday, things were a little tense, and literally on Sundays, like a curtain had dropped. We went into a place where normally everybody would be friendly, and it's like, hey, you can stand outside. We'll bring you this, and it just like the world stopped turning.
Yeah.
And with the stuff that the media was putting up, I remember watching, at the Airbnb that night, bodies getting brought out. And of course, they didn't tell us that they put a whole bunch of sick people in convalescent homes. And, you don't need to guess too much on what the result on that would be.
Yeah.
But it was enough. It had me pretty startled when they started announcing all of the lockdowns and all the requirements. And so at the time, I was worried, and was, so I complied completely in the beginning with all of the lockdowns and whatnot, even though we're in an area where non-compliance was not such a big thing.
If we were in a different location, that would have been
you had very little option.
Yeah.
But so I had to come back the following day, and we had a class on Monday or Tuesday, the first day back from our trip, and so we had some students come in, and such a weird thing. I had to tell everybody that there won't be any classes tomorrow. I don't know when. We're going to start producing online content, and we'll do everything we can to get through this. But it was so unprecedented. I didn't know what to tell people. So I don't even know. I'll never forget. I had a family that was here. They just finished up their trial, and so we'd had their meeting already on the books to upgrade them from become regular ongoing members. And most people would call this bad business, being a bad business. But I set them down and go, look, this is what it cost, but I don't know if the school's going to survive this. I don't know if we're going to be here. After I gave them all the information, I don't know that I would sign up. I just want to be upfront. I've always highly valued being transparent and honest in everything I do in business, even if it's to the detriment. I'd rather be broke and be honest than be rich and give up my honor.
Then feel guilty.
Yeah. It's just, and even outside of any guilt, it's just my own honor's not for sale. So, but the family, it was a pretty neat moment. It gave me a little bit of hope. That family said, well, we want you to be here when this is over. It's going to end. We want you to be here. So we're going to sign up and we're going to pay. And so it was nearly a year that they did that.
They were doing the online classes with us. Yeah.
But they, that's understandable with the people who had been with us for a while, because they were invested. These people had a couple of weeks of training, and they already saw the value in the school and having that commitment. And that student just became a red belt not long ago.
I know who you're talking about.
So that was pretty cool. So we were talking about the numbers and the momentum, and so we went from a little over 150 to 50 in a matter of a couple months. People canceling their payments and not being able to do stuff, and it's completely understandable, things that were happening. But that being said, didn't really change our costs as far as to open. Ours are a lot of our costs are pretty fixed. Rent and insurance and all of those things, and those guys all wanted their money. They didn't care too much about the other one. My landlord at the time did. I spoke to him a couple months into it, and he did give me a bit of a discount, so I was appreciative for that. It was there. There's never been anything since then. I hope we don't experience anything quite like that again. But then there was also the rippling effect. So we lost the momentum and lost the numbers, but then there was a certain segment of the population that was afraid of coming in. So even when we started offering training, there was people like,
we can't come back.
We're not comfortable coming back. We don't want to do this type of a thing. And then people just started living their lives differently, and so that new normal kind of affected the flow, and everything that we kind of had in place was built on pre-COVID. And coming out of COVID, there definitely was a time period where how we were living, how we were doing stuff was connected to all the stuff we dealt with from COVID. And it doesn't matter whether it's real thing or not thing, perception is what matters. And so there was that perception of stuff. And so that definitely affected things. And then, there was two big ship crashes, if you will, at sea. And I imagine people that are not in business didn't notice it as much. You might have known that some things were hard. One I want to say was crossing the Suez Canal, and a ship actually turned sideways and blocked it. And I can't remember where the other ship was, but it was another major shipping lane that got shut down. And even some of our most basic goods, I couldn't get them. Like I couldn't sell a mouthpiece because I couldn't get anywhere. And then some other basic stuff. And so all of these things just kind of compounded one after another. And so that was a COVID experience, but we're still here. You
got to keep putting one foot in front of the other. The thing that I was likening that to is in learning a new skill, whether it's martial arts or woodworking or auto mechanics. Mm-hmm. There's this certain unknown, and you slowly come to it and understand things as you continue to work on it. And it's got to be frustrating, especially with something like that, where you just have no idea from one day to the next day what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the tide shift so quickly that it was like, it was completely alien.
Yes, yeah. One of the things that was interesting is typically you see this in, I imagine, every industry. Whenever there's a really bad economic downturn that happens, a certain percentage of the businesses are lost. But typically it is the youngest, newest businesses, because they have the least resources, the best knowledge, the best elasticity to adjust to things. Well, with COVID, a third of our industry was wiped out, but it wasn't just that newest third. It was
established.
It hit the entire industry.
Hard.
Big guys, little guys, it didn't even matter. And I imagine the number would be much higher if you ran the really small schools, because there's a lot of schools out there that are
teaching
just
out of the garage.
Yeah, out of their garage, or Parks and Rec programs that they're just complete acts of love. Nobody's making any money on. There's not even, some people would say it's not a business, but these schools that went unreported, the vast majority of those were removed. And but then the idea that a third across the stratosphere of martial arts schools, even schools that had huge $1 million enterprises, some of those went down.
And
now some of them were more able to pivot. I know of a school in San Francisco. I saw their thing. They basically changed their entire school into like online studios. They subdivided it down, had little curtains in there, and high-tech camera equipment. And so they were offering like 20 private lessons at any given time online. And so again, when you're bigger, you have the ability to do some neat stuff like that. But I believe it was Blasio or one of those guys that got out of San Fran.
Oh, okay.
And it was pretty neat to see. It was out of reach for us.
Yeah.
But it was neat to see how some people can be creative and adjust for things.
And we had to do a lot of that.
Oh yeah.
We ended up doing a lot of online.
We definitely tiered coming back. We did all the online production, and I am not a video producer. I got to get a little bit of a crash course to try to produce some videos that are still funny. I would look at them now; they're pretty rough. But we did that training. We'd come down each Saturday and shoot a bunch of stuff. Then I'd go home across the week and produce films and whatnot for people to be able to train at home. And then when we reopened, so kind of the story, at least here in Shasta County, is they had announced on like Thursday, I think it was, that they're going to let gyms and whatnot reopen for private training and whatnot. And then it was like the next day they said yes, and then the following day, like, no, they changed their mind. Well, in that time, we had already were like, okay, we were going to die. So as a business, so we were like, okay, this is what we're going to do. Figured out a plan. We have have three teaching possible areas. Reach out to all of the assistant instructors, and it's like, hey, if we can make this work, this plan work, we'll do something for you guys as well. And essentially what it was is, in lieu of everybody's monthly lessons, they could come in one time per week and get a private lesson. And so we started doing that, and I taught a lot of them, and you taught some of them. We had other instructors teach some of them. We had a couple guys even burn themselves out. He's so excited about being back down here at the dojo. He was teaching almost as many as I was. But yeah, so that got people back in the dojo and started training, and that was kind of that step back to getting to actual group classes. And I never forget when we had our first group class. I had a young man who was training with me, I want to say for about a year before COVID hit. He was pretty young when he did that. So he comes back a year later, and he was a normal, well-adjusted kid. And then after that time of COVID, he came back in and was hugging to his mother's back of her leg and was crying because he was so freaked out being in public because he had been locked in for so long.
Oh, man.
And he's one that sticks out, but story after story, different people that I've seen where the effects of that, like I said, that rippling effect after COVID was very much a real thing, and it was devastating to the psyche of many of the kids and even some of the adults and whatnot. You had family members lose graduations and things like that.
For sure. The thing, I kind of steered that off of got sidetracked there. I started thinking, I started thinking about all of the other things, and those are some, at the time, that was terrible. Mm-hmm. It was a terrible moment, but it showed me what I was made of. You know what I mean? I know you had to feel some of that.
Yeah. How bad do you want it?
Exactly. How bad do you want it? I was just talking about this with my wife last night because she's trying to apply for master's programs and schooling and everything. And she's been communicating with her academic advisor through text message, which I strongly recommended against.
Yeah.
Because you just can't understand the tone and everything.
What is the actual context of?
And you're talking about serious stuff. Well, it turned south. At least the understanding of the conversation turned south. And I looked at her last night, and it's funny you said that. I said, how bad do you want this? If you want this that bad, you are willing to do what? You know? Yeah. And that's probably the most important lesson I've learned through all of this. It was like, if there's something that you want that bad and you're willing to work for it, then
work through that.
Time to get to work, you know? The unknown portion was terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
The not knowing from one day to the next if we're going to have a place to train, if you're going to have a building to rent, if you're going to, are you going to have students?
Yep.
Your motivation or your fortitude to keep going was inspiring. There were times when we were all in here looking around each other like, we got to do something. There's kids out there that need something, and I remember the brainstorming sessions we'd have, and sometimes we just look at each other and it's like, I got nothing, and we could, on a good day, we could be in and out of here in a couple of hours, have stuff recorded, have like an hour's worth of material or hour and a half worth of material, and be done. And it was awesome. And then there were other times we're just sitting here staring at each other forever.
What are we gonna do today?
How do we convey this on a camera and make it relatable, make it work?
Yep. Well, when you think about the general student, because we can't name each one of them.
Yeah.
So a student at home, they don't have a partner. They might have a parent to hold a pillow or whatnot. Most of them don't have training pads.
Yeah. And
then to be able to come up with a way to teach it. If we were a kata-based style or a forms-based style, would have been much easier.
Absolutely.
Because that's trained by yourself. But if you're in any truly self-defense driven type art, it is the interaction with another person.
That's sparring.
So the sparring or having somebody over. I imagine in the jiu-jitsu world they probably had a very similar difficulty, because you need somebody that's touching you, holding you, grabbing you, and
it's hard to practice a choke in the air.
Yeah. Come here, Grandma. Let me try this.
It doesn't work.
Won't fly very very long.
Yeah, you'll be on the cover of a paper somewhere. So that part, like, that was there was a lot of challenges there, and a lot of like, okay, I don't know where we're going, but we're going to keep going. That is so similar to martial arts. It's so similar to some of the things that you come across when you're training, when you're learning new skills and trying to understand something that is completely foreign. Do you ever get comfortable with that?
To an extent. It's kind of like the idea of learning to learn. Most people have not learned to be good learners. And so with this, just as a comparison to what you're talking about, you go in, you're learning a new skill, and then, okay, now I'm learning a new skill. Well, there is a skill to learn about how to bring those skills in. How to actively listen, what questions to ask, when to ask questions, when to shut your mouth and listen. Because a lot of times, if my mouth is running asking questions, I'm not really listening. And I know I've caught myself doing this, where they're talking and I come up with, this question, and I'm just thinking about how I'm going to phrase my question.
In the meantime, they're still talking,
and I'm missing all of that. So that's the learning to learn. And so the being adaptable with business and learning to be trusting in the outcome, to have faith that one way or the other things will work out, and really, in that vein of thought, knowing that the outcome may not be what I want right now, the outcome may not be what I see right now, but to know that one way or the other, that I will come out that other side. That's not an easy thing to accept or to be, but as you move towards that, it allows you to then let go of. You can deal with what's in front of you instead of having to claw what's ahead of you.
Okay.
And then you can focus on and deal with what's in front of you on a daily basis. And it's not to say that you don't want to plan or have some long-term goal, but if there's an old quote, I can't remember exactly how it goes, if you have one eye always on your destination, you only have one eye to see where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do absolutely want to stop, look ahead, what's our goal, how do we intend to get there, but then we need to focus on that path,
on the road to get to that goal.
That's getting there. And then a big person that living in fear is not a good option. I would be absolutely lying to say that I didn't literally my hair grayed during COVID and since then.
Mine fell out.
Yeah,
so
yeah. So the stress is there, and it's not that it never comes up. Then I don't have hard days, but just kind of trusting in that process and moving forward, and knowing that things go up, things go down, and to take the best advantage of the things that you can when those situations are right.
Yeah. The thing that I've always struggled with, I don't have a profitable business. I go to work for somebody else, which is its own can of worms. But in doing this and making the little mistakes that I've made and go, okay, I remember that one. I'll try not to do that again. Putting, it's not just you. You're married, you have a family. And so that's one thing that I've always struggled with, because for me, I can live off of water and top ramen.
Yeah, but you don't want your kids to.
I that's fine, because I did it to me. I made that mistake. My kids didn't ask to make that mistake. So that's got to weigh heavily on you.
Yeah,
at times.
Yeah, definitely. When you get to the point that you're not paying yourself, this is luckily not my only income stream.
Yeah.
It's for me, it's my primary one, but when you look at my family, it's not our only income stream, luckily. But yeah, you don't want to be in that situation to where you're not able to do the things that you would have liked to do before, or provided for the kids, or stuff that comes up. But sometimes you have to make those hard choices and choose which things are most valuable to you, and then you do the best that you can. And if I drive a school bus next year, then I'm driving a school bus next year. No intention of doing that, but understanding that I do have options, and I do have different things, so that way I don't have to sit and focus and stress on that. I'm not going out applying for other jobs. I can live in the moment where I am, continue to help school grow where I am, take advice and implement new things as I can, and just knowing that there is a parachute out there
if you need,
and not dwelling on that time, so that I can focus on what's going on here and whatnot.
Yeah, kind of like sparring.
Yes.
If you focus on the fact that you got hit, you're going to get hit again.
No, for sure. Absolutely.
I was literally talking with somebody about that today. You got to let go of that. That happened already.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a big topic yesterday. We had the study session yesterday for the 2 upcoming black belt candidates. Yeah. And one of the modules that we go through ends up dealing with that idea quite a bit.
Which is phenomenal. So, I'm sure there's always an opportunity to make a mistake.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. You want to learn about making mistakes and dealing with them. Open a business.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the odd thing is sometimes you don't realize that it was a mistake until much
later.
Yeah,
And
you don't constantly get that instant feedback.
Yeah, I very, very intimate with making mistakes. I know quite a bit about that. But it's not always so right away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah. And okay, so Thursday, I'm driving home.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm still working. I'm coming out of Weaverville, coming down the hill right before the rest stop.
Okay.
And I'm not paying attention to how fast I'm going, but I know I'm going fast. I was going really fast.
Oh.
Yeah, really fast. Probably close enough to where I could go to jail if I was to get pulled over.
Yeah.
No, I don't know where that threshold is, but I was dabbling in that.
Yeah.
You know, just minding my own business and trying to get done. I got one more stop to go. And I suddenly become aware of what I'm doing just as a highway patrolman is coming across the opposite direction.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow. Oh, crap. You know, like, so I just slowed down. Long story short, I didn't get a ticket.
Lucky.
I thank the Lord, like right then and there. Like, holy cow. I drove the speed limit the rest of the day and the rest of this week so far.
There you go.
But I was completely, you know, I was in my own head. I was in my own world thinking about all the stuff I had to do and coming down the hill and just gathering a head of steam and not aware. It's funny how quickly you become aware of those mistakes,
yes.
You know? And then you do your best not to make that same mistake again.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that's the thing about mistakes. If they're going to have value to you, is to learn from them. Because a mistake is a bad thing if you don't learn from it.
Well,
if you can learn from the mistake and then not repeat it or repeat it less often, then it becomes a learning tool and a stepping stone for you.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many things. One of the things that you've always said is martial arts is a vehicle for life or for doing life. Mm-hmm. And the first time I heard that, I guess I didn't really understand it. And now that I've been doing this for a long time and really into it, I've come to the realization that it's not just a vehicle for life, but it's completely transformed my life. Mm-hmm. And those around me of the people I care about. And it's made my sons, better people. Still working on a couple of them to make them even better. But it's enriched our entire lives. Mm-hmm. And I know you've heard that many times, just from knowing you and knowing who you are and being, I guess, for lack of a better term, inside as mm-hmm. much as I could be without being a financial backer or partner. I know you've heard that, and it has to be rewarding.
Oh, for
as
sure.
much as money in some cases, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, by far. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Money's nice.
I love a big fat paycheck as much as the next guy, but it really when you have somebody coming in and a parent that's just thrilled over something little Johnny did that they hadn't done before, or you're seeing the change, or there's just something. A couple weeks. Oh, it was an older kid, Mondo. We were training here on a Wednesday. It's a smallish class, and so because of his age, he was with two guys who were both over 50, 55.
Okay.
So you got this kid that's like 14, great shape, and two guys that are our age,
Yeah.
And so I had him. He did what they were doing, and then he was like ready to do some more. So I had him throw like a crescent kick, and then axe kick, and then he's like, He goes, I just did a crescent kick. And he was so excited. And the important things in a crescent kick, I mean, it's okay. It's not even really that useful of a kick. But he had accomplished something. And his internal self-worth just went up a little bit forever.
Yeah.
And that feeling of that accomplishment, you can see it. And it even though that individual technique is that important, that experience and that growth is just unbelievable. Well, and then to get to watch it is so rewarding.
Yeah. And the value that he got in it isn't so much the kick. It's more like, I did this work. Absolutely. And I can produce this. And
absolutely.
What else can I do?
Yeah. Well, and then his parents are really good. We talked about staying and watching, getting to see what your kids. And as the kids get older, there's a direct inverse correlation. Kids get older, less parents stay and watch. Little guys, parents are almost always there. But he's really lucky. He's got some parents that are always with him and watching him, and they saw that in him. And you can see the parents grinning ear to ear.
Yeah.
Both for the technique, because it looks cool, but then also how excited he was. And that's where, you end up seeing that real value of martial arts.
I haven't seen that kid in a while. I miss him. He's a good kid.
Because he's purple belt now, so he's not in my blue belt class. He's in my purple belt class now.
Yeah. No, he's always, it's funny because he's pretty stoic. Mm-hmm. Like he gets excited, but it's few and far between.
Yeah, he keeps it under wrap.
Yeah.
But you'll see him occasionally.
When it
smile
does, it's
and get excited. Yeah,
I would joke with him sometimes. Like, I know I did an okay job when you're smiling and like having a good time and exciting.
Yeah. He's funny.
That's one of the things that like keeps me coming back, is seeing that on kids' faces and seeing them make those stepping stones. That growth and personal reward for that is just awesome. I love that stuff.
Yeah. It is. To watch people go through the various milestones, whether that's belts or accomplishing things that they didn't think that they could accomplish, or at a certain point when they start getting to help teach, and they come over and they're like, "Oh, that was so cool," and then to watch them eventually, after they've been acting as an assistant for a while, to be as excited or more excited for their protege, the person that they've been helping. See them get super excited for this other kid, and they're more excited about that than their own promotion. I've literally had that where, you have an assistant instructor, they're taking their test on a day, and somebody that they've been helping is taking tests on the same day. They might be more excited for the other student. Yeah. And, honestly, and you've probably experienced this some, I know that I certainly have, I get more nervous when my students would go up and test in front of my instructor or whatnot than if I had to do it myself. It's like that, when you send your kid out there to do a play or their speech and you're nervous for them. Yeah. And there's a very strong correlation, a very similar aspect with that.
For sure. I can only imagine. Actually, I know for a fact. Yeah. Watching my own children, I can't watch my own kids test very well, not without keeping my mouth shut. So my wife was another one that watching test. I had to really bite my tongue. And,
yes. Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough. So who that brings up a whole other question. Who did you have of your students that tested under Sensei Bill?
When he came out, I was watching.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Tyler, a number of you guys went with him. When we went years ago, Skip and
you guys went to Portland.
Jessica and Phil and Phil's kids. We all went up to Portland. So only interacting with Sensei Blue, but Sensei Hovis was there. Basically, our whole family tree was up. I don't think that. Well, Skip got to train with Master Hoft. Okay. I don't think that anybody that trip trained with Grandmaster himself, but we kind of had that situation before, and it's a big thing because you have a certain amount of control. We like to have control of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And so when that person goes out, it's about them, but it's about us too. We're like,
Because-
okay, this is it. They're and all of a sudden you can't do anything
Really?
to fix it. Yeah. So you're wanting to see him go out. You want to see him do a good job, and also be a good representation of what they've shown and learn.
Yeah, because it reflects on you.
Yep.
Just like any parent.
Yeah, for sure. And you want them to have have success. You watch students go out and compete in tournaments and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a pretty neat experience.
I will say though, and hopefully you don't burst this bubble of mine, but I will say when the last time Sensei Blue came out and he was here for a week, which was awesome. But he came to a couple of my classes,
Mm-hmm.
and I like, floor's yours. And he's like, no, you go ahead and teach. You do what you were going to do. I'll participate. And that was huge for me. After I had to change my shorts.
Yeah.
But it was really awesome to see that whole cycle of like, you taught me this stuff, and now you're participating when I'm teaching it to somebody else, which is really cool. And I still get that same feeling when you come in and observe, even if you're just observing class. I'm like, this is just awesome. It's awesome to see this whole cycle of life.
Yeah, that it is. It's really an interesting thing. It came up. I was talking to my daughter yesterday, and I can't remember what the topic was, but it had to do with you guys and the senior instructors and kind of that process and how neat it is and how lucky we are to be in a setting to where we have all the kind of different. We have students, we have assistants, and we have instructors, and then you guys are lucky enough. You guys have a senior master, I don't know, whatever term you want to call it, but somebody that is able to then help guide you guys. It is a really neat ecosystem to be able to have here, because if I can be detached from the student-teacher relationship that you have with a particular student, then I can be more objective and give you better feedback. And so it creates that different thing. What was the term? CQI, continuous quality improvement, was a job that I'd worked before, and they always harped on that idea of the CQI, continuous quality improvement. It's never good enough. So what can we do to improve the outcomes so that the students are better, or that our communication skills are better, or that we're providing the best experience that we can and the greatest outcomes that we can. So that's definitely a big deal, and it's a nice thing that we have here where we definitely have that loop.
Yeah, for sure, because there's always feedback's there, sometimes whether you want it or not, but it's always constructive, which is important, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Feedback's not feedback if the intention isn't to make the person better.
Well,
if you're giving something and your intention isn't to help them be better, you're just trying to inflate your own ego.
Yeah, for sure.
And if that's your goal, you're kind of in the wrong place, or at least in the wrong state of mind when you're doing it.
Yeah. No, that's one of the things that I've always really appreciated about here is like, we're all here, and I would assume it's for most martial arts focused places. It should be. At least that's my opinion, is it should be. We're here to try and make everyone better, because if I can make you better, I can in turn make myself better. But it should be that way everywhere, but it's shocking when it's not that way.
Yeah, so there's a term called normalcy bias. And so the basic idea of normalcy bias is whatever I do, whatever environment I'm in or surrounded with, or whatever thoughts I have, those get generalized out. So if I have thoughts A, B, and C about how things should be, normalcy bias means I project that on somebody else. That's where it can be hard when you start interacting with other people. And so the same thing happens here at the school, is we have a very particular culture here. And not that we're the only school, because I've been to other fantastic schools that have very similar stuff. My instructor's school, of course, we're kind of an offshoot, even though we have a very different flavor now to a certain extent. But the idea of this communal training where everybody's trying to build each other up is definitely prevalent. But there are a lot of places where you go where, each person's there. I'm here. This is my class. I'm here to get everything I can get for me.
Yeah.
And so you end up seeing the difference in that. And, different people have different things that they're looking for. And so that's one of the nice things with our system of governance and commerce in this country, is that there are different things for different people. So people can hopefully shop around and find what they're looking for. And that's, if you ever talk to somebody, or one of your listeners ever asking questions about a martial arts school or whatnot, I think one of the big mistakes that people make is they walk into a karate school and then either sign up or decide karate's not for them. And
without trying,
looking and seeing what else there is. Now, if you walk in and you just love the school and everything fits and makes sense, then go ahead and sign up. But if you're there and you're like, oh, this is okay, I think this, look around a little bit, see what else is available. And if you walk in and you don't like it, it's not that martial arts is bad. It's not even that school is bad. It just may not be the right fit for you.
Yeah.
Because instructor personalities, the style of teaching, even the way that our style is taught is very different here as compared to some of the other Wingdao schools that are more esoteric. There's another school that I know of that their whole thing is high tier competition, and really their students they keep a very small number of students, but they're all basically world-class athletes.
But it's geared towards competition.
Competition fighting, yes, and so very different than the self-defense school. So I always encourage people, look around, see what's available, and you can find typically something that
there's a flavor for
that you would like. But back to that idea of normalcy bias, we often assume that that's something that is prevalent to other people or whichever group you have from one to the other. So as an instructor, I always encourage people don't see or perceive things the same way that you do. And that can create quite a few rifts and problems where, well, of course, I was being helpful. And to somebody else, maybe their sense of space or the amount of attention that they're used to is different. And so a good instructor is good at listening to other people, and listening is more than just what they're saying. Body language, responses, and all of those things are important.
Yeah, that was between that, like figuring out what this person does and what they like, what they don't like, how they learn, all of that stuff, and then finding out like how to communicate the information to them. Mm-hmm. Those two things I think are the biggest hurdles as far as the teaching standpoint.
For sure.
Because especially with new students, because it's a fresh, it's a blank slate. You're like, okay, well, what the last student did it this way, this one's going to do it not even close to this way.
Well, there's so much to learn. A common mistake, somebody gets their black belt, and particularly if you didn't come from a school that requires teaching, there's a world of difference from being a good teacher, from being somebody that is a good practitioner of an art. And then even if you are a good teacher and you're a good practitioner and you're like, oh, I'm ready to open a school, you might be a world-class martial artist and a fantastic teacher. Doesn't mean you know anything about business,
which is a whole nother.
That's a whole other thing. Yeah, I was a member of an association for a while with a bunch of very successful school owners, and did training with them for about a year, and learned a lot from them. Learned a lot of what I didn't know, and that can be an eye opener, and realizing that there's more to learn, and it's up to you. How far do you want to go into that one direction or the other? But we should always try to be aware of what we don't know.
For sure, because that's what.
That's what'll jump up. That's what'll jump up and bite you. Yeah, you're out walking, in the high desert somewhere, and this is great, and you don't know under that rock is a nice rattlesnake, and.
I lit up because I just saw a friend of mine shared a story that I shared on Facebook or Instagram. People interacting with animals that have no business knowing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And like going right up with their phone, taking pictures of a buffalo.
Well, I was just in Yellowstone, not this summer that shut over, but two summer before that.
Yeah.
And I had seen all these videos online, and I'm assuming, I'd always assumed these were isolated incidents and probably not. No, everywhere we went, because we spent 5 days in the park, we were able to actually camp in Yellowstone, And I'm trying to think of a nice way, but the stupidity. You know, you might go, oh, they might not know better. When you see a bison in real life and how big it is and how they look at you, to then walk up to it and
try to take a photo,
take
of
photos
it,
or
pet
walking
it.
close. Yes. It's unreasonable. Or we're out there in the trailer park and they had I think they named this one because he's around in something Bridge Park. There was this one big male bison that was always there, and I think they named him Bill. And this guy had these couple dogs, and he let his dogs go out after this bison, and it's like, those things run, I think, at like 45 or 50 miles an hour, and your dog's not going to run that fast, and it's just going to run your dog over.
Yeah.
And,
oh, wow.
The day that we were checking out, we pulled up, because we have an RV, so we pulled up, we're in the long kind of storage lane, and we're doing a few things because we were going to get on the road, and I think we had a long day of driving that day, so getting everything just dialed in. And a bison had walked in and was 10 feet, 15 feet from where the bathroom kind of came out. So, everybody kind of stops and get to watch when you see one. And these girls, probably 16 to 19, they were little ways, 17, 19, come out on their cell phones and they're not paying attention, they're walking right towards it. So I don't say anything. So finally I end up yelling, I'm like, hey. So they stopped, they looked, and the bison right there. I'm all, you need to go back in the bathroom or go the other way. And they looked at me and go, whatever. And they walked literally right behind the bison. And, there's certain behaviors and stuff that when you go to the park, if you listen to the rangers, like the tail comes up and it starts wagging. And so all of the bells and whistles were going off.
That this animal was not happy.
Yep. Yeah, it's wild. And then, you also have the, all the thermal features and stuff.
Yeah.
People, they tell you, don't go
off.
Don't
you're off the road.
Yeah, you're watching these this water shoot up. Well, they tell you that water's hundreds of degrees hot, and people getting off on there to try to get a little picture. And we did the big tour, the famous yellow bus tour of Yellowstone, and they take you all the way. That's a great tour if you're ever able to go. And some couple had decided that they wanted to go out there and go skinny dipping or go swimming in one of the pools. Well, they went in, there was a fissure at the bottom of the water, and I guess there was an eruption or something like that. So the temperature went up, it cooked them. And because the acidity or the baseness, the acidic level of the water, there was nothing left other than I think they found the crystal from a cell phone or something like that, because that wasn't able to be dissolved. But yeah, it people not thinking through what they're doing, and it's not uncommon. That was the part. I mean, I knew people did it, but I didn't expect the prevalence of it again. But that might be my normalcy bias, because to me, I am a cautious person. I'm a rule follower by nature.
But you also grew up around animals, and you have
livestock and those type of things. So yeah, and like I said, until somebody stands next to a bison in real life, realize how large they really are. Zeke almost got hurt. So we went out, we did this big tour, we were tired, so it was me and my son Zeke, who at the time would have been 14, and Juby at the time would have been 16. And so we'd had this big long tour, we're just kind of frazzled. So I went back in the trailer, I'm gonna play a video game, watch a movie or something. And Juby was sitting there, I think, drawing or doing art, and Zeke wanted to go out and play VR on his Oculus. So we're in a really nice park, so I'm not worried about criminality, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So I go inside, we're sitting there, I'm just kind of defragging after a long day of doing stuff, and I go bang, bang, bang. So I open the door, and Zeke's like, the ranger needs you. And I'm like, what? So I go out, and the ranger's all mad, and so I look over to my right, and there's a bison 15 feet. Well, Zeke had been outside in his VR, completely checked out. He had an Oculus with him.
Oh,
didn't have any idea. And the bison doesn't understand that. He's got some guy out there swinging. So the ranger at first is kind of aggressive with me, but I was like, oh, look, I'm sorry, I didn't even think. So then we were able to, we're not doing that outside anymore. And then we got to see Bill, but then that's where we saw some of the other events, the guy letting the dogs out with them and kids riding their scooters by him. And it's pretty wild. There was a bison 10, 15 feet from the front door of my trailer.
Wow. and could have been in your trailer.
Oh yeah. As big as those guys was, I wouldn't be surprised if I couldn't hook one up and then pull the trailer.
Yeah, those things are massive.
Yeah.
There's a rancher that has a herd of them outside of Red Bluff.
Oh really?
I've heard, I haven't seen it, but apparently there are a couple of days that you can see. They're on the left-hand side as you're headed south, I think.
Okay, on the west side.
Yeah, just past Jelly's Ferry.
Huh.
Back in there somewhere, but yeah.
That'd be interesting to see it.
The
fencing that it would take to keep one of those things in would be
massive. They're not herdable animals either.
Yeah.
They don't they'll follow food, but like cattle and sheep and stuff, you can kind of corral them.
Yeah, those are thousands and thousands of years of domestication to get them to that point.
Yes. Yeah, and those ones, I guess people have tried.
Yeah. Yeah. I would not want to make one go anywhere that he didn't want to go.
Absolutely not. They're delicious, though.
Oh yeah. You gotta love a bison burger. As a matter of fact, I had one weekend before last. We were up in McLeod, and there's a Jolly's Burger and Cone,
Jolly Cone
up there, in McLeod. And I went in, they had a bison burger, and I'm like, well, it's a little more expensive than the regular one, but I might as well try it. It's pretty good.
They're tasty. Well, hey, I've kept you here for an hour. I definitely want to give you as much time as you want. If you want to stick around, we can talk more. But I know you're a busy guy and got things to do. It's 11:30.
11:30.
Yeah. But I want to give you a shot to shout out your business and invite people and all that good stuff.
It's Blain Cort's Total Self-Defense. We have been, our line of schools have been in Shasta County since I was born. The year I was born, 1979. It's when Dave Hovis came down and opened up the school, brought my instructor to be a student, and ended up then taking over the school. So it's a continuous line of succession from 79 till now. The only real break in there, like I said, was that year and a half or 2 years where we were closed. But other than that, we are one of, if not the oldest continuous line of instruction here in Shasta County. We work with men, women, and children. We have classes. Our Mini Ninjas is a 5 and 6 year old program. And, we have all of our programs are specially designed to work appropriately with each age group. Then we have our youth. That's going to be 7 to 12, 13-ish, kind of, until so a little soft on the transition, because there's some 13-year-olds that are still kind of the size of the younger kids, and I have some 13-year-olds that are huge. Yes. And so when they're ready, then they move up, and then we have the teen and adult program. So we have our empty hand, and we also offer the modern. So we have a number of kind of elective or extra programs as well. And we have great special right now. If anybody that is interested, reach out to us, 530-209-5634. You can call or shoot us a text, and getting started is pretty straightforward. Awesome.
Thank you again for showing up and being here with me. I appreciate you more than you know, sir. So thank you. And with that, friends, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. If you didn't like what you heard, come back next week. We'll try it again. Also, we have a website, theformlesspod.com. You can get shirts, hats, t-shirts, all that kind of stuff there. We have a Facebook group called The Formless Pod, and an Instagram account called The Formless Pod, and a Twitter account as well. So,
if you're going to plug your website,
please.
I'll plug mine. If you're interested, want more information about the karate school, and you want to be able to get some of that online, you can look us up online. Either just Google Blain Cort Total Self-Defense, or if you want the address, it's Blain, that's Blain, Cort, Cort, and then STSD for Total Self-Defense. So blaincourttsd.com. And you can hop on there. You got lots of information about our programs and the benefits.
Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. That was good. You can keep on.
Trying to not sit and fidget too much.
It's hard. That's good. Oh, thank you. I
Yeah,
hope that was fun for you.
Yeah, that was good.
That was awesome.
Yeah, far cry from where you started with just the
Absolutely.
10 cans up there.
Yeah, and it's like it legitimized things, but it made it so much easier.
Nice.
It made it so much easier. And now I can do things like each one of these is a sound pad. So I can pre-record stuff.
Yeah.
And it comes with built-in sound effects. Mm-hmm. But I can pre-record stuff and be like, oh, here's a commercial.
Oh, nice.
Here's somebody sent us a video call or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Quick,
drop it in and play. Your phone's there. Your orange juice is
I was
there.
looking for keys.
Your keys, I don't know. But yeah, it is like made a night and day difference.
That's good. Yeah, you need to make it